beneath the iron bars. The sound of metal gates closing had become the rhythm of Sarah's existence. But nothing prepared her for the moment, when those same cold bars would crack open the frozen chamber of her heart. In cell block C of Berlin's Tegel prison, where hope went to die and redemption seemed like a cruel joke whispered through concrete walls, two women were about to discover that love doesn't ask permission and never checks the rulebook before it rewrites your entire world. Sarah Hoffmann had been an inmate for 3 years, her identity reduced to a number stitched onto gray fabric, her past a collection of mistakes that had led to aggravated assault charges she couldn't take back. The woman she had once been, the art student with paint-stained fingers and dreams of galleries in Munich, had dissolved. The moment those handcuffs clicked around her wrists, prison had a way of stripping you down to your rawest form, and what remained of Sarah was a shell that moved through each day with mechanical precision, her eyes carefully avoiding connection, her heart deliberately shut down. She had learned that survival meant staying invisible, keeping quiet, never letting anyone see the cracks. Officer Katharina Weber represented everything Sarah had learned to resent. She was authority, order, the system that had caged her. With her perfectly pressed uniform and regulation haircut, Katharina moved through the prison corridors with a confidence that seemed almost cruel in its certainty. She had been working at Tegel for 5 years, and in that time, she had built walls around herself that rivaled the prison's own fortifications. Her colleagues saw her as cold, efficient by the book. What they didn't see were the nights she spent questioning whether she was making any difference at all, whether she had become just another cog in a machine that broke people instead of fixing them. Her own story was one she kept locked away, the daughter of a police officer who had expected her to follow in his footsteps, a woman who had chosen this path to prove something to a father who never lived to see it, whose approval she still chased through the ghosts of memory. Their first real encounter happened on a Tuesday morning in November, when the Berlin cold had seeped through every stone of the prison, until even breathing felt like inhaling shards of ice. Sarah had been assigned to the library detail, one of the few privileges she had earned through 3 years of invisible compliance. She was reshelving books in the psychology section when a volume slipped from her hands, its pages scattering across the floor like wounded birds. She dropped to her knees, frantically gathering them, her hands shaking because even small mistakes could have consequences in this place. And that's when she heard the voice. "Let me help you." Katharina had appeared without warning, already kneeling, her gloved hands reaching for the scattered pages with a gentleness that seemed impossible given the uniform she wore. Their fingers touched for just a second as they both reached for the same page, and Sarah felt something crack inside her chest, something she had thought was dead forever. She looked up, and for the first time in 3 years, she really saw another person. Katharina's eyes weren't the harsh blue of authority she had expected. They were softer, sadder, carrying their own weight of unnamed burdens. There was a moment, suspended in the dusty light filtering through barred windows, where neither of them moved, where the prison seemed to fall away, and there was just 2 women kneeling on a cold floor, both broken in ways the other couldn't yet understand. "Thank you," Sarah whispered, the words feeling foreign in her mouth because gratitude was a language she had forgotten how to speak. Katharina nodded, professional distance already sliding back into place like armor. But something had shifted. They both felt it, though neither would have dared to name it. After that day, Katharina found reasons to patrol near the library during Sarah's shifts. She told herself it was routine, part of her duties, nothing more than ensuring order. But she knew she was lying. She had begun to notice things, the way Sarah's hands trembled slightly when she was concentrating, the ghost of who she must have been before visible in the careful way she treated each book, as if they were precious artifacts instead of prison-issue paperbacks. Sarah, in turn, had started to map Katharina's routines, her heart beating faster during the time she knew the officer might appear. She hated herself for it, this weakness, this need. But after years of emotional starvation, even the smallest crumb of human connection felt like salvation. The transformation was gradual, measured in stolen glances and words that carried more meaning than their surface suggested. Katharina began bringing Sarah books from outside, slipping them into the library collection, art books, volumes on the expressionist movement. The kind of things she had learned, Sarah loved through conversations that had grown longer, deeper, more dangerous with each passing week. Sarah sketched in secret. Using contraband pencils Katharina pretended not to notice, creating portraits on scraps of paper that she would destroy before lights out, afraid of what they revealed. But she kept one, a drawing of Katharina standing by the library window, light catching the uncertainty in her eyes, the humanity beneath the uniform. It was an act of rebellion, of hope, of something she was terrified to call love. The prison administration had rules, of course. Fraternization was forbidden, especially the kind that had begun to bloom between them like a rose pushing through concrete. Katharina knew she was risking her career, her reputation, everything she had built. Sarah knew she was risking the small freedoms she had earned, possibly facing solitary confinement or worse if their connection was discovered. But neither could stop. They were two people drowning who had found each other's hands in the dark, and letting go meant surrendering to the depths. It was Katharina who broke first. 6 months after that first encounter in the library, she found Sarah in her cell after lights out, having used her keys in a violation of every protocol she had ever followed. The words came out raw, unplanned, stripped of all the careful control she had maintained. "I can't stop thinking about you. I know this is wrong. I know what I'm risking. But I need you to know that you're not just a number to me. You're not your mistakes. I see you, Sarah. I see who you really are. And it's breaking my heart, because I can't do anything to fix this for you." Sarah had risen from her bunk, and in the darkness of that cell, with danger pressing in from all sides, she had closed the distance between them. Their first kiss was desperate, necessary, terrifying in its intensity. It tasted like tears and hope and all the loneliness they had both been carrying. When they finally pulled apart, both were trembling, both knowing they had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. What followed were months of living in the spaces between rules, finding moments of connection in a system designed to prevent exactly what they had become to each other. Katharina used her position to ensure Sarah's safety, intervening quietly when other inmates targeted her, creating opportunities for them to be near each other while maintaining the fiction of professional distance. Sarah began to change, the hollow-eyed prisoner transforming back into someone who believed she might have a future worth fighting for. She enrolled in education programs, started working with the prison counselor, began the long process of becoming the person she had lost. But love in a cage is a fragile thing, and the world they had built was always one discovery away from collapse. It came on a spring morning when another officer, suspicious of Katharina's frequent trips to the library, decided to investigate. He found one of Sarah's sketches, the portrait of Katharina that Sarah had been foolish enough to keep, hidden in a book. The investigation was swift and merciless. Katharina was suspended immediately, facing termination and possible criminal charges. Sarah was moved to isolation, threatened with additional time, interrogated about the nature of their relationship. In the cold interrogation room, Sarah made a choice. She could have lied, could have protected herself by claiming Katharina had manipulated her, used her position of power inappropriately. It would have been believable, might have saved Sarah from consequences. Instead, she told the truth. She explained that what they had found was real, was mutual, was the first genuine thing she had felt in years. She took responsibility for her part in it, refused to let Katharina carry all the blame. "She didn't corrupt me," Sarah said, her voice steady for the first time in years. "She reminded me that I was still human, that I was still capable of feeling something other than shame. If that's a crime, then I'm guilty, but I won't let you punish her for giving me back my life." If this story has touched something in your heart, if you believe in the power of love to survive even the harshest conditions, please consider liking this video and sharing it with someone who needs to be reminded that redemption is always possible. Your support helps us continue bringing these powerful stories to light, and it means more than you know. The aftermath was complicated, messy, exactly as real life tends to be. Katharina lost her job, but avoided criminal prosecution after Sarah's testimony and character witnesses attested to her years of dedicated service. Sarah served out the remainder of her sentence, but with a new purpose burning inside her. They didn't see each other for 2 years. Not until the day Sarah walked out of Tegel prison as a free woman. Her sentence completed, her debt to society paid. Katharina was waiting outside, no longer in uniform. No longer the officer, but just a woman who had held on to hope. Through 2 years of separation, they stood there on the sidewalk. Berlin morning traffic rushing past. The prison walls looming behind them like shadows of a former life. Sarah carried a single bag containing everything she owned, including a portfolio of sketches she had created. Images of transformation, of love surviving in impossible conditions, of two women who had found each other in the darkest place and refused to let go. "I got accepted to art school," Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The program starts in the fall. I'm going to be the person I was supposed to be before everything went wrong." Katharina smiled, tears streaming down her face. "I became a social worker. I'm working with a resettlement program for former inmates, helping people rebuild their lives after prison." They both knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. Sarah would have to navigate life with a criminal record, rebuild relationships with a family that had abandoned her, learn to live in a world that had moved on without her. Katharina had sacrificed her career, faced judgment from former colleagues, struggled with her own family's disapproval of the choices she had made. But they had survived the impossible, had loved each other through concrete and steel and all the systems designed to keep them apart. Before we reach the end of this journey, I want to ask you something. Please take a moment to share in the comments what this story meant to you. Have you ever fought for love against impossible odds? Do you believe that connection can survive even the harshest conditions? Your words and experiences matter, and this community grows stronger when we share our stories with each other. They walked away from Tegel prison that morning hand in hand. Two women who had been broken by their choices and their circumstances, who had found each other in a place designed to isolate and punish, and who had emerged on the other side believing in second chances. Love, they had learned, doesn't obey the rules. It doesn't ask for permission. It simply exists, fierce and undeniable, waiting for us to be brave enough to claim it. Even when claiming it means risking everything we have. Their story didn't end at the prison gates, it began there. And somewhere in Berlin, in an art studio filled with canvases depicting iron bars transforming into open windows, and in an office where a former prison guard now helps, people find their way back to society. Their love continues to grow. Proof that even in the darkest places, the human heart can find its way home.